everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Divine Diva, where my guest for today is Brooke. So, hi, Brooke, if you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. Here. I am a hypnotist, a Vedic astrologer, and a transformational coach based in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been working with I call it the medicine of the divine feminine or the sacred feminine for 10 years as I had a vision of the Divine Mother that woke me up out of my slumber. And I really started to understand the role of a woman's embodiment in this current trajectory of Earth and how we can connect to ancient truths about what it means to be a spiritual woman in modern
Mm,
times. So I'm delighted to be here.
thank you so much. And I would love to know, like, in your view, what qualities does a Divine Diva have?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think there is something that the Divine Diva has had to go through the hell realms or the underworld to really then harvest her joy and her delight and her pleasure, that no matter what external circumstances are going on, that she prioritizes joy and delight, beauty, her own body being a temple, healthy and taken care of, and also owning who she is,
Mm,
fully being herself, full out, authentic, honest, truthful, unapologetic.
mm. Yeah, especially that last word, unapologetic. Because I even notice it myself that I still have the tendency to say sorry for things that I don't have to be sorry for. Yeah, it's an interesting journey still, right?
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah.
is. And with just slowing down, especially with my work with subconscious oriented coaching and hypnosis, slowing down the body so that before we even say sorry or, oh, do whatever the nonverbal thing is before sorry, because there's usually
Right.
our body language of saying sorry right before
Mm,
we speak sorry. So
right.
just catching ourselves, oh, oh, I was about to do that habit again, but I
Right.
decided to breathe. I decided to be. I decided to embrace the diva, the queen
Mhm.
archetype, be with a little uncomfortability with that old pattern wanting to come up. And then I choose something else. I choose
Mhm.
something that is more in my truth of who I really
Mhm.
am.
Because that pause is really what defines reacting from responding, right? And I'd love to know a bit more about you and your journey, your awakening. Could you share some details about that?
Absolutely. I had a very interesting, uh, I call it karma,
Mhm.
occur in my early 20s. I had graduated college and I was very much starting to understand that I can no longer be this overachiever, this perfectionist, this people pleaser, because my health personally was starting to flare up. Things like fibromyalgia, my mental health was just a disgrace. I was very, very anxious, dealing with confusion about who I am, how do I serve the world. And as I went through the process of starting to decondition myself and starting to find hypnosis, I found it quite early on in meditation and through the medicine of dance therapy, and understanding different emotional blocks manifesting in different pockets of discomfort or pain in my body or my even speaking. So much of our feminine healing is around the throat and around the yoni,
Right.
so connecting those dots and understanding, where the suppression, the shame, the guilt, even the ancestral conditioning, I started, really looking at this because I just wanted to feel better.
Mhm.
And I knew I could feel better. I knew that was a possibility for myself. And around that time, my mother started her descent of illness into advanced rapid dementia
Oh.
in her late 50s, right after her second or during her second Saturn return in astrology, usually
Mhm.
big things happen in our lives. It's our late 20s
Right.
or late 50s. So I started witnessing her descent and my helplessness in that. And at the same time, having more of these awakenings to what is the sacred feminine within me, what is the archetype of the priestess. And it was during a meditation where I was emptying out that I heard that God was a woman, that God, in fact, was a Black woman. And I had no idea what that meant. And being a researcher, I know you are too now, Suzanne, myself, I started researching um, what what is a Black woman goddess? What is this? And so I came across the Black Madonna, and then I came across the dark goddess of India, Kali.
Right.
And I thought, what? There's these whole paths of spirituality and this and the sacred feminine being honored. And I've lived my whole life not realizing this.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
it's through this journey of awakening to, what that was and hearing and listening to these forms of what's called Shakti or feminine energy through the goddess moving through me that I was able to cope and I was able to move through the process of losing my mother to a very unfortunate disease. So it was the karma was hitting me and asking me to see beyond the veil pretty early on in my life. And so since
Mm.
then, my life's been dedicated to transformation and overcoming grief
Right.
um, that often reveals to us all the patterns where we've been self abandoning and not even realizing it. But the
Yeah.
grief is such a medicine for us to look
Yeah.
honestly at who we are and what we want and to let our heart truly break open.
Yeah, because it's funny that you mentioned that because I read on your social media that quote that you say grief is one of the greatest medicines for uncovering our purpose. Please, can you tell a bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yes. I just have lived that from losing my wonderful, playful. She was I would call her a fairy woman, just
Right.
sort of here on the planet, but very much musical, interpreting clouds, forgetting her keys, her wallets, but bringing so much joy, laughter, and playfulness my whole life, my mother. And losing that joyfulness from my mother, I really looked at, well, what am I going to do now?
Right.
Like my main sense of safety and something that brought me love, belonging, and connection is just suddenly disappearing quickly. Well, what is that thing that's going to replace that? Of course, I'm going to try to, grasp onto relationships and romance and, escape through temporarily, satisfying pleasures. But what really is going to hold me, what is going to nourish me, what is going to reroute my root chakra and my safety, that is going to carry me forward the rest of my life and be a healing balm to a very difficult loss of a
Mm-hmm.
parent. Um, I'm so curious about your experience with grief and purpose, Suzanne.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a long one. Need a whole new interview for that. No, but really, when I found my purpose also through a personal trauma myself, where I almost died, and so not someone I knew, but me myself almost died, and I knew there. It wasn't instant that I knew there was more. I knew I was saved because actually I had to be dead. Not many people survive
Mm,
what I went through. So I instantly knew I was helped and helped for a reason.
mm,
And that's when it grew. It took about like 10, 11 years from where I am now and how it grew to what it is now. But I instantly knew it happened for a reason and I'm still here for a reason. So yeah, that's my part of that story. But also like you mentioned grief, because I had to grieve almost like for myself for a period. And that
mhm,
okay, I am still here, but why am I still here? And then you even hear on the news that people who had died from what happened to me, and I'm like, okay, then it struck me because, okay, I'm not special. I don't feel special. Why am I still here? And they are not. So, yeah, it was a
Mm,
whole grieving period in itself for who I was and who I thought I was going to be. And now I had to
mm,
change that and shift that and become a new me. So, yeah, it was an interesting journey, that I can say. But,
mm, mm.
yeah.
It feels like it's necessary for the diva to
Hmm.
be bright and in her glory, to really recognize where grief, trauma, heartbreak has
Hmm.
actually been some sort of a blessing for us, or some
Hmm.
sort of a gift for us, or how can we perceive it as a gift, but
Yeah.
still tend to the process
Yeah.
of grief. And I think that's part of the beauty of the sacred feminine path. It's not avoiding emotions, it's not
Yeah.
stuffing them away in the closet. It's, let me be raw, let me be vulnerable, and let me use my sacred vessel, my body, to just
Hmm.
move through these layers of emotions, because they're going
Yeah.
to give me my purpose if I really let
Hmm.
myself feel all of this and
Yeah.
rage and mute and be, connected to the sadness that feels overbearing. But
Mm.
as
Yeah.
you probably heard the statement, we got to go through it
Yeah.
to get to the gold. And
No mud,
so,
no lotus, right?
yes, no muck, no lotus.
Yeah. And it's definitely not always easy. It has been a struggle, and I'm sure you can relate to that as well. It has been a struggle, and you're almost like fighting your own purpose. Like, okay, why does it have to be this hard for me? But you'll get through it. You'll get there. You'll learn the lessons, and yeah, you can feel your divinity starting to grow and make it makes sense finally. Like, oh my gosh. And like I said, it took me like several years before I got there, but I got there. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's worth it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more we identify with time, the less we get out of life and the less rich of experiences and
Hmm.
even synchronicities. If we're trying to rush a process or trying to get somewhere, try to awaken or try to be
Yeah.
some template of the sacred feminine or the diva that we learned from a workshop or a friend or whatever, we are
Right.
just totally bypassing the gold that
Yeah.
is with these micro moments of change and transformation, and all the people that are meant to be part of your evolution of
Hmm.
consciousness, which is such
Yeah.
a treat. Because I know myself, I've been held and blessed because I've opened up to women of all
Right.
different walks of life to hold me through it, and for me to hold them in
Hmm.
different ways. And so I think that's part of the magic of being a diva, is seeing the diva in other women and
Yeah.
just celebrating each other in this profound ancient way.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that's the whole purpose of this show as well. That I let women shine and we shine together. And hopefully that creates the ripple effect of seeing women supporting each other. And that's what it's all about, right? And I would love to know, like, when did you discover and really hone into your personal gifts?
It was through looking at the archetype of the priestess
Hmm.
and seeking out specific teachers who were teaching about the mysteries of the priestess. And I found my teacher, Marguerite Riggioso, who had a mystery school
Hmm.
about priestesses, and especially oracle priestesses, or priestesses who were the channelers, who were the mediums, who were bringing down divine insight from the gods or God.
Hmm.
And it was through experiencing her mystery school and being among other women who were training as priestesses, oracle priestesses, that um, I was able to hone in on a lot of my gifts, but to find some sort of identity that was really key for me to embody in this uh, symbolic plane of consciousness of, oh, I know what a priestess feels like. I know what the sacred role is like.
Hmm.
Oh, I can be that right now. okay, how does a priestess walk? How does she talk? How does she speak? How does she channel? It held me accountable. I really needed the embodiment, the identity, and the
Yeah.
archetype to really own my gifts, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise I just felt very
Yeah.
floating and not in my body at times. And so that was a remedy of really studying, like, what are the paths of the female seer or the female shaman or the female priestess or the female yogini in the East. And that was something that just allowed me to, oh, okay, it's safe for me to fully be this. Because something
Mm-hmm.
in my own awareness was just like, I don't feel right just calling myself a medium or a channeler. There's something else that is important for me to sink into. So it was through
Mm-hmm.
the priestess.
Mm. Yeah, because you can take all the courses and have all the trainings, of course, and mentors, but it's not until it actually lands within you and you actually become it and not just teach it or show it, that it really has the effect that it should. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I would love to know what the difference is for you between feeling confidence and feeling worthy.
Uh, I do feel the difference just in my body of
Mm-hmm.
the worthiness being more in the heart of, oh, I'm worthy of what I desire. Spirit, God, whatever, I know I'm connected to something beyond. And I know because I am a child of God, spirit, goddess, whatever, I am worthy of it. Because my heart just feels this way, I'm certainly worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
The confidence, I feel it more in the solar plexus or the womb area of just
Mm-hmm.
like, I can do this. I got myself. I know I can handle anything that comes up. I know I can advocate for myself. I know how to use my power in a right way and to not leak it and to
Mm-hmm.
not let other external powers or energies, psychic hooks, we can call them,
Right.
hook into my solar plexus. I can be aware of them. Maybe I'll let one hook in that's important for me to be resourcing from this
Mm-hmm.
person or this idea or philosophy. But I'm here and I'm sovereign in who I am
Mm-hmm.
in my solar plexus.
Mm-hmm. And they both come from, like you said, from quite a different space. Like the worthiness is in your heart chakra, and like the strength, almost the confidence, comes from your lower chakras, like your, of course, your sacral and your root chakra. So I can feel there's also like a difference in like the body language.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love kind of peeling back the layer to body language and
Mm-hmm.
even astrology too, because self-worth is our Venus placement, and
Mm-hmm.
Venus is
Right.
connected to love and the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and our confidence, our authority is our sun sign, and
Mm-hmm.
sun is connected to solar plexus.
Mm-hmm.
Even the mitochondria of our cells, our energy, our vitality, our health. And so looking at things from that lens as well.
Mm-hmm. And I'd love to know because, as you mentioned, astrology, and of course, you're a hypnotist as well. What are these are for me like techniques or tools for expansion and growth and discovering yourself. But what is like the key thing that they can teach us?
Mm, I believe it's acceptance and awareness. It's acceptance of who we are, what we've been through, what our ancestors are before us,
Mm-hmm.
where our dreams are guiding us in this lifetime. And we could even say that's the acceptance of like the heart, of the body, of the physicality, of the personality, even of like, oh, wow, I perhaps I am a very strong Scorpio person and I have very strong jealous tendencies. Okay, that's fine. I don't need to shame. I don't need to change. I
Right,
just need to be aware that this part of me gets triggered sometimes and I can have a laugh about it. I'm not going to feed it, but I can become,
right.
accepting of it.
Yeah.
And then the awareness, expansion of the consciousness or upper chakras of, whoa, there's much more going on here. And there's much more control that I have of my mind and my experience and how I want to meet the world. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, I don't have to be limited, for instance, by my chart or from my belief system. I
Mm-hmm.
can choose to be unlimited. I can choose to be potentiality express, that
Mm-hmm.
infinity of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it boils down to those two things, awareness and
Mm.
acceptance.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned acceptance, especially when it comes to those tendencies towards the negative, of course, or personality traits, or that you mentioned, like, okay, I am actually this sign or this human design projector or generator or whatever you want. But when you say acceptance, it just diminishes the shame, and I think
Yes.
that's what it's all about. Because okay, we're not all angels and fairies, and it's okay to accept you as a whole being. And as we talked about earlier, it's about accepting that divinity within you is part of dealing with all those so-called, I don't even want to call them negative emotions, they're just
Hmm.
emotions.
Hmm.
And they just have a lesson, I think, to teach us or something to
Hmm.
show us. So I think that word acceptance is really key here, right? And
Agreed.
yeah, and I think, why is that so hard for women to do that? I don't know.
It is a skill. It's a skill
Mm,
for us to train. It's a skill for us to, even in our, conversations, we're such emotionally oriented social beings, really talking about um, those fears or those places where, you know, maybe we're struggling with aspects of our personality, or we're struggling with a part of us that is kind of grasping on to pain, or is struggling with forgiving someone, or fully healing from the trauma, really speaking to it, of
mhm.
validating each other, that, yeah, honey, you went through a lot. That makes so much sense.
Right.
Okay, how can I support you in transforming this? Because you don't have to stay there as a victim. You
Yeah.
don't have to stay there in the helplessness, or stuck in that charge memory, or stuck in that wound. There can
Yeah.
be so much more once the wound is really validated and appreciated for its gifts. So you
Mhm.
can move into more of this liberatory state, this freedom oriented state of consciousness,
Mhm.
which brings us often so much back to this deep, abiding love in oneself and love for all beings.
Mhm. And how important is self-forgiveness in this aspect?
I think it's absolutely key. I had
Mhm.
one teacher who taught that the only forgiveness is self forgiveness,
Mm.
just
Right.
something to chew on.
Mm.
Um, and so, really, I think what's important about forgiveness, self forgiveness, is that you're taking responsibility for yourself. You're
Right.
fully taking responsibility for yourself. You're fully reparenting yourself where you didn't have the nourishment of either one or both or others in your family, parents, and those, we want them to be benevolent authority figures, but often they're not. Um, and really taking the responsibility to say, okay, was my experience, and now I can re-experience
Mm.
safety and belief, and maybe on the spiritual dimension, call in guides, call in, you know, ancestors who are kind and helpful, that will help me bridge this gap in my own consciousness that I didn't receive early on, the correct nourishment for me to truly thrive.
Mhm. And it's not about erasing your history, of course, but almost like rewriting it for yourself in your own heart and mind. Right. Yeah. And I love that you said forgiveness. There's only one way of forgiveness, and that's forgiving yourself. Because you, even if you forgive another person, it's also about, okay, it's not okay what they did, but I let them go, so it no longer affects me. So you help yourself by forgiving someone else as well. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that as well.
Mm.
And also, I would love to know, how do you protect your own energy, especially as like a psychic and very spiritual being?
For me personally, I really jive. I really am a person that needs a lineage of a spiritual lineage of
Mhm.
of something, and I'm part of a specific tantric yoga lineage that is very meaningful, very grounding for me, and that's connected to Durga, the Divine Mother in
Mhm.
the Indian pantheon, pantheon, excuse me, of deities. So being with the practice of, goddess energy really feels like protection to me. So I
Mhm.
use mantra, I use meditation, um, I read, I keep connected to what the teachings of Durga is. There's a
Mhm.
huge myth called the Devi Mahatmyam about her, kind of essentially saving the world from ignorance
Mhm.
by illuminating her courage and her light on the planet.
Mhm.
And that mythos, that story, and all the practices from thousands of years ago still maintained in India and transmitted through teachers. And one of my teachers, that's what fundamentally I would say keeps me feeling grounded and good. But that
Mhm.
is not often the path for many other people. And so I do know other psychic techniques and energy healing techniques that are beautiful in
Mhm.
their own way and extremely supportive.
And do you also have a sacred self-care ritual?
Ooh, I would say my main sacred self care ritual is doing yoga nidra, which is the
Mhm.
yoga sleep. So laying down and doing a deep body scan and meditation to relax and to release with a certain intention or what's called a sankalpa. And I do that usually throughout my day, at least once. I don't nap. I, try to stay away from caffeine, but when I feel, especially I'm a projector in
Mhm.
human design, if there's other people who know what that is, oh, I need to recharge or I'm going to get nowhere. My mind
Yeah.
is fried. My energy is fried. All right, how do I reset? How do I take care? Okay, let me go into this very relaxed sleep state. So it's not
Mhm.
sitting upright in a meditative way. It's very relaxed, very immersive, very feminine, I would add,
Right.
to go down and deep into your subconscious.
Mhm. Well, and my last question is always the same, and that is, when do you feel most divine?
Oh, what a beautiful question. Oh, when do I feel most divine? You know, it's often right after a hypnosis intensive, especially in purpose. Um, I feel emotional thinking about it. And when there has been a transformation with a client, and I have guided them through it, but they have essentially guided themselves
Mhm.
because their soul wanted to heal this, to shift this, to change this, to create new space, new awareness, new pockets of love for themselves to grow into. And so that kind of post hypnosis effect, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I feel so divine and I feel just so grateful to have said yes to my calling, which has no kind of family history, no healers in my family, no intuitives in my family, nothing of the sort, but to
Mhm.
say, wow, I'm in my purpose and I helped create change and transformation for this person's life. I feel freaking divine.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke, and I hope you feel divine very often.
Likewise, Suzanne, for you and your whole audience as well.
Thank you.